Chill.
never mind.
You believe that the Celtics are the clear-cut best team in the NBA?
I do think that. Yes, I do. I feel like the way that I felt about Denver last year, that's the way I feel about them. And the addition of Porzingis and the addition of Drew Holiday is the reason why. Drew Holiday does everything that Marcus Smart does, except better. Porzingis adds that element that they didn't have last year, which is scoring big. As good as Robert Williams was defensively, he was not very good offensively, so they couldn't really go to him for buckets. So now you add that element into what they have, and you can use him in multiple ways. He's not just a box player, and you got your dirty work guy in Al Horford. Then you also got your utility guy in Derek White. Jason Tatum does what Jason Tatum does. Jaylen Brown does what he does. And in addition to the rotation players, I think they're the most complete team in the NBA, like the Denver Nuggets were last year. I think they win the NBA championship.
Yeah, they're the best regular season team for sure. I don't think their ceiling will not be this high in the playoff. We already know this to be true. We're going to do this again. I think they're a really good team. They're going to win 62 games this year. But I'm telling y'all right now, it's going to be a dogfight between them and the Heat again, and everybody's going to be looking crazy. Why is this going 7 games? The Heat they're not going to beat themselves. They're the best coach team in the league. They're going to be completely disciplined with their game plan. They're deeper than they were last year. And the Heat are going to have everything in the world to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. So I think that the Bucks are obviously going to have some issues. They can win probably 2 or 3 games in that series, but I agree. I don't think that their defensive ceiling right now, even though it's been better with Doc. Again, a lot of this comes down to like shot making. If Giannis is hitting a mid-range jumper at a fairly decent clip, I'm not even saying like 46, but let's say it's like 42, 43, then I think that would significantly help them offensively. And so if he's able to convert those looks, they're going to have a real hard time beating that team just because their defense is going to be a lot better by then. And when it comes to POA defenders, they're not going to be like super solid, but the Celtics are wing driven. I'm not really concerned about Derek White and Drew Holiday like lead option scorers. And so maybe switching and all that stuff with Dame and Malik and everything can have some problems. But the fact of the matter is Giannis and Brook are still going to be at the rim. I think the Bucks will still give them some problems. I think the thing for me is everybody is looking at the Celtics team and saying, like, the numbers say they should be this. But me personally, and again, y'all can absolutely push back if you want, there's never been a team that's led the NBA in three-point attempts like to this degree on this volume that's made it to the finals and won in recent modern NBA history in terms of this much of their shot profile, which is like 46%, if I remember correctly, on dunks and three.
I think they lead the league. Don't they lead the league? Don't they lead the league in the long ball? Okay.
They do. Yeah. They lead the league in terms of the most portion of their shot diet toward three-point shots. And I think when you have hot and cold stretches like that, we saw that versus Miami, that if you get – and the thing with Kristaps great in post-ups. He's been really good in post-ups, so with Jason Tatum. But Kristaps, I think if you put him in post-up situation in the playoff versus the condensed defense, second round, third round, I think you're going to have a lot more issues with that size and physicality. I think the players like Bam, players like Brook, they're going to give him some issues if he does try to hunt those matchups. And on the other end of this, again, this comes down to Jason Tatum pull-up shooting. He had a really great stretch of this season where he was shooting very well as a pull-up shooter from three and from
in the mid-range too.
Yeah, he was feeling it. But outside of that, he's been bad. He's been like in the low 30s on both accounts for most of the year outside of that stretch. So my whole thing is I think some people are really they're very much emboldened by these great regular season numbers. But last year they fell apart at home. They couldn't dominate at home because their defense fell apart in the clutch. Like they just don't have some of the traditional things that I would like to see from a team in a playoff setting that I can rely on. And again, it comes down to best player, Chill. Yeah. If Giannis is healthy and the Bucks are healthy, they're going to give them the work. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they can push them to 7. And nobody up this panel, unless you're maybe I don't know, depends. I think we can all agree Jimmy Butler is at least in the same tier as Jason Tatum. And come playoff time, he's a better pull-up shooter. He's a better defender. He's just a better scorer. Go ahead. Ron.
No, he's basically he's agreeing with what you're saying. So 2 things, Swiper, to combat what you just said. Well, number one, I think Jason Tatum this year, I think this is the best he's shooting at the rim, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's almost 75%.
And his post-up game is much better.
I think this is the best that he's shooting at the rim. Number 2, when you're talking about a championship level team, one of the great things about a championship level team is that they are able to be chameleons. We can play the way that you play. We don't have to just live with what you do. or live with what we do, because there are nights when the long ball isn't working. And it's not like the long ball works every night for the Celtics. There are nights when the long ball isn't working. And when the long ball isn't working, they go to other things like their transition game. They go to other things like their mid-post game with Porzingis. They go to other things like their box game. They go to other things like Derek White being able to shoot. That's the good thing. That's the good thing about having a bunch of other guys who do a multitude of things. Now, sure, our game plan is to shoot the long ball because that's what the league is today. It's not just because that's who they are. That's what the league is today. The league isn't
every team profile,
and that's the reason why every team isn't a championship contender. For that reason right there, it's because this team is one of the best teams at doing that. Now, I also want to mention, to your point when you talked about them not being able to prove that it was a fluke. So sure, they didn't want to prove that it was a fluke the same way that Miami didn't, the same way that Boston didn't want to prove that it was a fluke, because everybody forgets Boston did beat them too. It's not like Miami just owns them. They beat Boston too. I mean, they beat Miami too in Game 7 in their building, in Game 7. So they did do that. And with all of that being said,
hurt excuse just Tatum did though. Like
they did. Game 7. They did. Yeah. But Jimmy Butler, I don't think that he was as beat up. I mean, we talking about Jason Tatum.
Remember, he missed a game. He missed a game, and then I don't know.
I think it was game 5.
I can't remember. Remember, it was his quad. He had a quad injury, and he just didn't have the same lift for
but with that being said, I think that I'm looking at a completely different Boston Celtics unit from a talent standpoint, not just from a talent standpoint, from a scheme standpoint, defensively, collectively. I think they're the most complete team in the league, and I think.
But the problem is,
are the Celtics the best team in the league? And if not, who is?
I mean, on paper, I would say yes, but in terms of execution, I would say no. I don't trust their play. I don't trust their game plan, which is live and die by the 3, and you're not Steph Curry. I can't get behind. They rely on the 3 ball too much for me to say that they're the best team. Because any given night when they're not hitting, it's a ton of question marks popping up. And I feel like that's an easy cop-out, because you can say that for a lot of teams. If X, Y, and Z isn't happening, then are they favored? Like, obviously. But with them, maybe it's a bit of bias. Maybe it's just I'm remembering too much of the past of what comes with this core. They did add Drew Holiday, did add Porzingis, so maybe things will change. But until I can trust them to have a game plan that I actually bang with, I'm not going to say they're the best team in the NBA. On the court. On paper, yes.
Who is?
No, they're not clearly the best team in the NBA. They are the best team in the NBA, but it's not like clear. You know what I'm saying? Like, put some respect on the Nuggets. Put some respect on the Clippers. Put some respect on the Suns. And that's what
put some respect on the Kings. Put some respect on the Kings. Yeah.
No. That's where the love stopped. The love stopped with the Nuggets, the Suns, and the Clippers. That's where it stops. But that's the thing, though. As we all know in basketball, the best, you can be the better team and still lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Celtics can be the best team, and the Heat can still pop them. You know what I'm saying? Joel's done, so they're out of there. But the Bucks can win. But I do believe the Celtics are going to win the championship. I do believe the acquisition of Kristaps Porzingis specifically is going to put them over the top. But I mean, Drew Holiday is still one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. I don't care about that game, what Jimmy Butler did in that game against Drew last playoffs. I still got Drew Holiday.
Are they by far the best team in the league? No, I don't think so. I think there's only been a few times where a team has been by far the best team in the league, and Boston is, in my opinion, definitely not one of them.
Who are those teams, Mars? In your estimation, this team was by far the best team in the league. Who?
The 2017 Warriors, the 2014 Spurs, the 01 Lakers. Well, the three-peat Lakers for real. The Bulls and like the second three-peat.
And 92 they were too.
The 87 Lakers and like the 86 Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
The 83 Sixers. And then all of Bill Russell's teams.
So in your estimation, it's not really that many teams that have been by far like this team.
And the ones that have been dynasties. So
you wouldn't say the 2012 Heat?
No,
I was thinking the 20. I thought it was the 13 Heat, to be honest with you. That team that won 28 straight games
by far better than the Spurs. They were better, but I don't think they were by far better. But But that's just my opinion. I mean, there's room for maybe a few extra teams, and there's room for a few less teams. I mean, I just made that up on the spot.
Right.
But the
I'm sorry to
point,
interrupt you. Keep going,
yeah,
Ross.
the
Keep
point, the
going.
point being was I don't think Boston is in that group of teams. Most of those teams I named are either dynasties or all-time great teams that just didn't last very long. So if you disagree with some of the teams I said, cool. If you think there should be extra teams, I'm not about to argue with you. I made that up on the spot, so don't hold me to that completely. But I think a lot of the points about Boston's one-dimensional, well, I don't think it's one-dimensional, but more one-dimensional attack is valid in terms of teams to lead the league in threes, or like especially in this modern era. Yeah, I don't think there has been a team that's won, because I think it's been Houston leading the league in threes like the whole time. So yeah, they haven't won. And like any team that led the league in threes back in the day, I mean, they weren't shooting 40 threes a game. I know Hakeem's Rockets led the league in threes, like I know that for a fact, but they were shooting like 20 a game, so I can understand the difference. But I think Joe Mazzulla gets underrated in terms of some of the things he's done this season. I think he's done a pretty good job as a coach this year. Now he's not no Eric Spoelstra or anything, but I do think he's done a pretty good job, and people seem to just act as if it's just all because of the talent. Some of the ways in which he's implemented some interesting defensive schemes, some of his after timeout plays, they're pretty interesting. And you can see, like, I think he understands the game and knows what he's doing. So he deserves some credit for that. But by far the best team in the league, no. I think Denver obviously are a team that is extremely strong. The Clippers are on a little bit of a down spell right now, but I still think they're a very strong team. The more I watch OKC, the more intrigued I am about them. I don't know if they beat the Celtics or anything, but I'm very intrigued about them.